the Tata Play website. Just click on the Manage Pack section, then follow the same steps. Now that your pack has been updated, enjoy your entertainment. Because here, entertainment is even more Jalala. आपके टाटा प्ले पैक को अपडेट करने का टाइम आ गया है। वैसे तो बड़ा आसान है, पर हम आपको एक एक स्टेप समझाते हैं। मैनेज पैक पर क्लिक कीजिए और दिए गए पैक ऑप्शंस में से रेकमेंडेड पैक चुनिए या
Okay, good evening, everyone. So, in the today's session, we can discuss about a service called a Lambda, which is a developer tool. Sometimes the DevOps team also will use that Lambda tools. There is a kind of a function as a service. Lambda is a serverless thing, so in which we don't create any servers or any infrastructure or anything like. If you see SNS, SES, these are all are serverless, right? We are not allocating any CPU, RAM, or anything. So the Lambda is a serverless, event-driven service, which is a type of a function as a service. So first, what is a function as a service? Or first, what is a function? What is the meaning of a function? Or where we use a functions? Okay, let us say you are running an application. Okay, the application has two different fields, like let us say A and B, or number 1 and number 2. If the user enters the number 1 and number 2, and then if they click on some other different button, then it should display the output as a sum of total two numbers. So there must be some code or some function which will perform the arithmetic operation, right? So that will be written by the developers to execute that kind of a program. So that code can be run in any language or anything, right? And to run the code, again, it requires some set of servers. Let us say in my laptop, if I am building an application and my application is in some, let us say in Java, and I written a function using some Python also. So I need to maintain a Python server also to run the Python code. But the problem here is whenever I got a huge number of requests, let us say 1000 people clicked on the some button at a time. So that particular server should execute the same function 1000 times. So it is not that much easy to scale if you are maintaining the function and everything. So this Lambda will allow you to run the code without worrying about the underlying infrastructure or provisioning the resources. It is a function as a service. And I will give you a simple example. I think in the last session, for the SQS, we took some example, right? Whenever a user uploaded, some other tool will convert that object from document to the PDF and then it will be stored, right? So here there is an application, the same example. Here is the application. So the user will upload the object into the application. So somewhere it has to be stored, right? So let us say the object will be stored into an S3 bucket in the backend. Whenever a new object uploaded, there is a tool which is going to convert the object from one format to another format, and that will be stored into another S3 bucket. This is what the example we have taken, right? So here this kind of a conversion which requires a function. So the function will never run continuously, right? When it will run whenever there is a new object. Now let us take a regular example. I think whenever you are sharing some images in the WhatsApp, the image will be delivered by compressing, right? You cannot share high quality images directly using your WhatsApp. In the back end, they will compress the image and the compressed image will be delivered. The function should not run continuously. When the function should run, whenever a new image uploaded, then only this function to be started. Continuously, if the function is running, it will consume a lot of resources, right? So here I have a requirement that there is an application. Whenever a user upload a image, that image will be uploaded into a source bucket or input bucket. I can say source. or an input. So here the image will be stored. Let us say image.jpg. Whenever the image got loaded, this function to be running. Whenever the image got uploaded into an S3 bucket, this lambda function, let us say this is going to be a lambda function. This lambda function read the image, it should compress the image, and the compressed image to be stored into this particular S3 bucket. Let us say this is going to be 300 KB or 500 KB, depends on how this function has been written. So in this example, we can ignore the application source destination. We are going to focus on this function. This function will never run continuously. Whenever there is a new object, then only the lambda function to be triggered. Triggered in the sense it will be started. How it will knows that there is a new image uploaded. Let us say the new image got uploaded. Who is going to read the object? Lambda function, right? So this lambda function must have a read permission on your S3 bucket. And then compressed image is going to be stored into your destination bucket or output bucket. So this must have a write permission on here. So it will read and it will write. But when it will read and it will start the function, whenever there is a new object uploaded. Whenever a new object uploaded into the S3 bucket, the operation in the backend is a put action. The action is the put action whenever you upload a new object to the S3 bucket. So this lambda function will continuously monitor for put action. Whenever there is a put action happens, immediately it will read the object which was uploaded using the put action. Then the function will start running. Function will compress the image and the image will be stored into the destination bucket. So I can call this as an input bucket and this is going to be output bucket. So the developers will write this lambda code. The developers will write the lambda code to automate the process and the code will run automatically. We are not responsible for running the code. So to understand this better, I will give a simple example. So everybody knows EC2 instance, right? It can be a Windows or Linux, that doesn't matter. So this EC2 instance is used between 10 a.m. and just between 6 p.m. only. After 6 p.m. no one will use and before 10 a.m. nobody will use this EC2 instance. And this is not a production server like internally using development server or something. So to save the money, what I do is every day at 6 p.m. I will shut down it and every day at 10 a.m. I will start the EC2 instance. Is there any option that to shut down the EC2 instance automatically at 6 p.m.? Have you ever seen any option? Because there is no such option exists. But what we can do is we can create a lambda function which will perform one action, let us say stop action. I can create one more lambda function with a start action. Start and stop in the sense like shut down. What if these two functions will continuously run? Continuously your EC2 instance will be stopped and continuously this lambda function will start your EC2 instance. So nobody can use that, right? That's why your lambda function will never run continuous. This lambda function must be triggered whenever it is required. So here there is one function to shut down the instance, right? What we do is while writing the code, we will write a trigger that this lambda function to be triggered at 6 p.m. every day. Whenever the time is 6 p.m., 6 p.m. is the event. Whenever there is an event, 6 p.m. happens, this lambda function will be triggered. In the back end, it will shut down the EC2 instance. And I will write this lambda function to be triggered at 10 a.m. every day. Like whenever there is a time is at 10 a.m., this lambda function will start running, in which there is a code to start the so-and-so EC2 instance. But now to create the snapshots of your EC2 instances, we are using the lifecycle manager, right? But in the olden days, there is no concept of lifecycle manager, only manual snapshot. So at that time, they used to have the lambda function. So every day at 6 a.m., this Lambda function will run, which will create a manual snapshot. But we don't do it manually. Automatically, the manual snapshot will be created. But now there is no requirement because we have a lifecycle policy which will create automated snapshots every day as per the requirement. So now what we do is on Amazon platform, Amazon is providing you a sample application with the same example compressing the images. Sample application means the front end application if requires, but here there is no front end application. Input bucket, output bucket, and the function. All these three are together, we can call it as an application. So here directly the user will upload the object into the input bucket, one bucket, so that the Lambda function will be triggered and the image will be read, and then the data will be stored into the output bucket. There is a sample application. We don't maintain the Lambda function or anything, but that is your responsibility to write the code in the Lambda function if you are a developer, or sometimes DevOps also use them to automate the things. Okay. So first let us write down about the Lambda. Lambda is function as a service. Function as a service in which we can run your functions without worrying about the underlying infrastructure, and it is a serverless. So Lambda will allow us to run the function or code related to that function without creating the infrastructure or the resources. And it supports, it provide unlimited functions to be run. Like let us say it is going to be auto scale. If I am maintaining the function in my server, it can only run 1,000 times a data, 1,000 times per second. But this can automatically increase to support almost unlimited triggers per second. Depending on the load, automatically the Lambda can auto scale. Lambda supports auto scaling to provide maximum performance at higher loads. The same example, at a time, let us say 1 million people uploaded the images. So the Lambda function should run 1 million times in that given second, right? At a time, 1 million times it should run. It might require a lot of CPU, lot of RAM and everything, right? That will be automatically allocated by AWS Lambda service automatically. On what basis we will be charged? On what basis you will be charged? The charges will be based on how many resources we utilized in the backend. Like we can say compute time. How many seconds you have utilized. Per second, they might charge you some amount. If you have utilized per month 1 million seconds, you will be charged for 1 million seconds and how many times you run that particular Lambda function. Let us say every time you run, they will charge $1, and every second they will charge $1, for example. So every time you run the function, it will consume 10 seconds. It will run for 10 seconds, the time to complete the function. So if you run once, for once $1, and for 10 seconds it will be $10. So each time you will be charged $11. Just for understanding, I mentioned the charges, but the charges will not that much. Is it a free tier eligible? Yes, it is a free tier eligible. Lambda is free tier eligible, in which we can practice with the sample application without any charges. What are the free tier limitations? What are the free tier limitations? I think it should allow 1 million requests, 1 million triggers per month. You can run the Lambda function. I'm not sure 1 million or 10 million. I think 1 million times. So I think there's a 1 million only. 1 million requests per month. Then seconds, I also mentioned about the duration, right? How much time we can run? 3.4 million seconds. The meaning of that is, let us say, whenever you run your function, it will take what we call that. It will take 4 seconds to run. 4 seconds to run, and in a given month, you have triggered that function for 1 million times. Totally, it will consume 4 million seconds, right? For the number of times you run, there is no charge. But for the total number of seconds, as you are exceeding the 3.4 million seconds, you will be charged for the additional 0.6 million seconds. Let us say every time I run a function, if it takes 10 seconds, and if I only ran it for 1000 times, then 1000 times is less than 1 million requests per month, and 1000 times into 10 seconds, 10,000 seconds, which is also less than 3.4 million seconds. So that is a free tier eligible without worrying about the charges. You can utilize that particular lambda function for the practice purpose. Let me check the free tier limits. So here I can type lambda. Okay, and is it a 12 months free or always free? It is always free. Even after 1 year also, you can use this lambda function for free based on these requests. Okay, once again, this is not 3.4, it's a 3.2. 1 million free requests per month and a 3.2 million seconds of compute time per month. Like you can utilize all the 3.2 million seconds with a one-time running, or all together you can run, but you should not exceed the 3.2 million seconds. Okay, so what we do is deploy a sample application which will use a lambda function to compress the images stored in bucket 1 and copy the compressed images into bucket 2. Like we have an input bucket and output bucket. What is that application or the lambda function will do is, here the application means the combination of function and your source or destination things. Okay. So before that, let me show you how the lambda function will work. Then later, I can show you how to create your own lambda function, but you must know how to write the code. But being a solutions architect, we don't do that. And also, let me show you some example for the lambda. So file processing, the example which I explained. If you upload a photo into the Amazon S3 bucket, the lambda will trigger. It will resize the code and it will be uploaded into your required output storage. What if it is a IoT, Internet of Things? Here they took some example of automobile. Nowadays, these automobiles are coming with auto detect the failures, right? If any part is not good, let us say, if it has to be replaced, the sensor will automatically detect and it will send the info to the application. Then the lambda will be triggered and the order will be automatically placed. Web applications. User uploaded some code into the Amazon S3 and then the user requested some weather data, and the data will be available in a DynamoDB database. So whenever the user clicked on that weather information, that request will trigger the lambda. Lambda will get the data from your Amazon DynamoDB database. So it acts as a mediator. The lambda function will trigger the user's request to be executed. There's a kind of a function. It can be anything. Just these are the few examples. Okay. So here what I do is, in the search box, I will type lambda, run code without thinking about the servers. Just go to the lambda service. Okay. So now if you are planning to create your own function, how to create the function is, you have to go to the functions. Before that, let me go to the dashboard. How many functions I have in my account? 0. And I have utilized 0 bytes of data to store the Lambda function code. Okay, go to the functions. You can click on create function. You can do it from the scratch, or you can use a blueprint, or you can use some image, whatever it is. So the runtime. As of now, Amazon supports these runtime environments to run your functions. .NET, GoLanguage, Java, Node.js, Python, and Ruby. And here they're providing some applications also which are integrated with the Lambda function. Just I will show you serverless application. Let me type compress. Okay, so here it is. Just I will show you how it looks like. So this is the Lambda function template. What exactly it looks like? It is going to run on Node.js environment, and the memory size is, initial memory size is this 1.5 MB of memory, and it has a read policy on source bucket, some read and write, monitoring, read, write, all the policies on the destination bucket. Timeout is 300 seconds. That means the Lambda function will consume maximum of 300 seconds. After that, if the function doesn't complete it, it will mark that as a failed. And when the Lambda function to be triggered, the event, whenever the object is created into the source bucket, then the Lambda function will be triggered and the output will be stored into the destination bucket. And the quality, how much quality you would like to compress, that you have to mention here. And here there are some parameters. See here, name of the S3 bucket to read the source images from must not exist prior to deployment, because it is a part of the serverless application. That's how the Lambda function and the applications design. Whenever you are deploying the sample application, the Lambda function and the source bucket will be automatically created, and the destination bucket must exist prior to deployment. That means that is not a part of the application. Okay, let me show you in a clear way. Whenever you are using the sample application, because that is the not we design. So what that sample application will do is, the sample application will create the Lambda function and the source bucket. This is the sample application, and where the compressed image to be stored in a destination bucket. The destination bucket is not a part of the sample application. So I can say this is output bucket and this is going to be input bucket. Whatever I have written in the red color, that is a part of a sample application, and you have to inform the application that the output to be stored in which S3 bucket. In that sample application, how Amazon created that is, this part will be automatically created while we are deploying the sample application, and the output bucket you must create. So this must not exist. Why exist? Why the input bucket must not exist? I said the input bucket will be automatically created, right? I'm saying the name as Lambda input. Why there is no such bucket exist before deploying the sample application? Because the sample application create the bucket with this name. If already the name exists, it will fix. That is the reason there is must not exist. And why this must exist? Because application is not responsible to create the output bucket and you are responsible to create it. Then the application will be connected with already existing output bucket. Okay, right. So here, based on the sample application, the minimum requirements are, I can say, is source stored in the source bucket. and copy the compressed images into destination bucket. The destination bucket is also called as an output bucket. Say output bucket, and the source bucket is also called as input bucket. The mandatory things are first let me write down the names. Source bucket, I can say the name is good, lambda source 24 Feb 2023. The destination bucket, lambda test 24 Feb 2023. Okay, here, the first thing, source bucket must not exist. Destination bucket must exist prior to the sample application deployment, because your sample application is not going to create the destination bucket. Okay, so now how to know that? Here they mentioned that name of the S3 bucket to put transferred images into must exist, or if you scroll down, you can see the destination bucket must exist, source bucket must not exist. We will see how to use that particular sample lambda function. So what is the first thing? The what we call the destination bucket must exist, right? So let us create the destination bucket first. Let me go to the S3 bucket. Let me create this particular bucket. We cannot use capital letter, we have to use small letter. So click on create bucket, enter the bucket name, and I will click on create bucket. All default options. Just we are using the S3 bucket as a storage. Now the input bucket or the source bucket will be automatically created by your lambda or your sample application. So here in the search, type for lambda, navigate to the lambda service. We are deploying the lambda function along with an application, right, which is going to be a sample application. So in the lambda, just click on applications on the left side, where you can access the sample applications available on AWS platform. Click on create application. You can create your own anything, that doesn't matter. So here I'm going to select serverless application, and here I will type some compress. So it will display the sample applications related to the compress. You can see the second one is uncompress. The compressed images will be uncompressed, like zipping and unzipping. So here click on compress application, and here application name. You can use any name. I can say lambda application. Destination bucket name. This destination bucket name must exist prior to the deployment. So copy the destination bucket name, and source bucket name, it must not exist. Not only in your S3 in your AWS account, nowhere it should exist. Now the quality. So on a scale of 1 to 100, 100 is the best quality and the 1 is the lowest quality. So if I say 10, 10% of the quality will be retained. So 90% of the image will be compressed. But in all the cases, maximum compression is not possible. That depends on the quality of the image. If you already uploading the compressed image, it will not be compressed much. It depends on how many layers it has. Based on that, you can compress it. Even if you see you have 1 GB text file and 1 GB software, which object you can compress more? Obviously text file. If you compress the 1 GB text file, it will come down to like 100 MB or 200 MB. If you compress the 1 GB software, hardly it will come to like 700 MB or 800 MB only. That depends on the type of the object. Again, it depends on how good quality image you are uploading. Based on the image layers and everything, it can compress up to 90%. Whatever is maximum supported on that image, up to 90% it will compress. Now let us click on deploy. What if already that a source bucket name exists? This deployment will get failed. So I clicked on deploy and the sample application will be deployed and your Lambda function is ready to run. When it will run? Whenever you upload a new object into the source bucket, automatically the Lambda function will be triggered. Everything like read policy, monitoring, when to trigger, events, everything is available in that Lambda sample application. If you are designing your own function, then you have to write the entire code. Okay, so here you can see that it is getting deployed 22 seconds ago. But what is the status? Let us check. Let me go back to the applications. And you can see one Lambda sample application is getting triggered, right? And if I go to functions, you can see the function. This is the function. In that Lambda, in that sample application, what we call that, the input bucket is a part of your application, right? So whenever you upload an object into the application, this Lambda function will trigger. Okay, let us see the status. Go to the application, click on your application, and let me expand it. So you can see what happened. Source. The source bucket is getting created. Let me check. The source bucket got created. Or let me go to the S3 bucket in a new tab. You can see there is a source bucket got created, which has a 0 files. Now the thing is, whenever you upload any object into the source bucket, that will be compressed by the Lambda function, and the compressed image will be stored into the destination bucket. Okay, that is what happening here. Okay, so let us wait until the Lambda function deployed successfully. Status is create complete, right? Okay. Now, what I do is I will open the destination bucket in one tab and source bucket in another tab. Which bucket it is? Source bucket. And here there is a destination bucket. You can check the name. If you see this, there's a destination bucket. No objects in source bucket and destination bucket, right? Okay. Now I'm going to upload one image file into the source bucket. Let me click on upload. To observe the compression, always it is recommended to upload high quality images. If you upload 10 KB file, you cannot observe the compression. Let me go to add files. Let me upload any image. Okay, here I can see something called 2.5 MB in size. 2.5 MB size. I am uploading it to the source bucket. Size is 2.5 MB. That should be compressed up to 90%. Up to 90%. Okay, I upload it right into source bucket. Now I will go to the destination bucket and we refresh. You can see the same object with almost like 75% compression. Okay. Does it support multiple, what we call that, multiple triggers? Does the function run multiple triggers at a time, multiple events at a time? To observe that, I will upload multiple images at a time. Multiple images at a time. If it is able to process all the thing, then we can say it is going to handle all actions at a time. I am selecting almost like 4 images, right? Okay, let me click on open. You can click on upload. So all 4 images uploaded. If I go to the destination bucket, And if I refresh, I can see all. But how should we know that for a function consecutively, or what we can say parallelly executed 4 times, only based on the monitoring, right? If I go to the Lambda and if I go to the dashboard, how many functions we have? One, which has 6.8 MB of code, including the sample application and everything. So here you can see what is happening on your Lambda. And here you can click on functions. This is your Lambda function, right? You can click on that function and you can check how it was configured, everything. In the monitor, you can monitor what is happening, how many times the Lambda function got triggered in the last 1 hour, last 3 hours, everything. So invocation, how many times it got invoked? Only one it is showing. But how many times it invoked? 2 times. Technically speaking, first time, one time it ran, and second time it processed 4 things at a time, right? Okay. So it will take some time because every second it will not update. What is the duration? To run that one time, it took almost 4,900 milliseconds, not seconds, milliseconds. 4.9K, which means 4,900 milliseconds. How many seconds per millisecond? Is it 100 or 1,000? I think 100, right? Is it 100? I think. Okay. It took 49 seconds. It took 49 seconds to run that particular code if 1 second is 100 milliseconds. Okay. How many errors? Red color indicates error, which is on 0. How many success? 100%. Okay. And then total concurrent executions. As per this, you can see only one. Only one. Okay. Let me refresh to check that 4 concurrent executions updated or not. How many times it invoked? Almost 4 times, right? And how much total duration? 11,600 milliseconds. Out of those, average is 9,000, minimum is 7,000, maximum is 11,000. So average is 9,454. And how many errors? 0 error. Success rate 100%. What is the total concurrent executions? Earlier it was 1, which means as of now, at a time, it executed 4 functions. If you are able to upload 1,000 images at a time, you can see total count is 1,000 concurrent executions. Okay. Does it compress anything or only images? That depends on your function. But that function was written only to compress the images. If I upload a non-image, then what will happen? Let me upload some other thing, not image, a text file or a PDF or something else. So let me upload a zip file or not zip file. Okay, let me upload this software, which is about 6 MB in size. Just to show that the code is only able to compress the images. If you want to compress the things, you can write your own function to use a WinZip or WinRAR or something, so that it will zip all the things. It will not compress the quality. It will zip the objects. Zipping is different. Compressing is different. Okay, now we uploaded into which bucket? Yeah, source bucket. Now, if I go to the destination bucket and if I run, you cannot see that object. Just I'm showing like, you might think that without compressing, it will directly upload the object as it is. That's not true. If it is not image, it will not process the compression. It will consider that as an error. It will consider that as an error. It will read the object, but as it is not an image, it will not compress. Even that also we can observe in the monitor. If you go to the monitoring of your function, you can see the error as a 1 because one object got failed. But still it is showing 0 errors. Let us wait for 1 minute. Then it will be updated. You have to see one error and success rate, the remaining success rate. Okay, so in the meanwhile, I will go to the dashboard. Even in the dashboard also you can observe, but it will show the details of all functions available on your AWS account. But we have only one. So how many total invocations here? 5. Total 5. Okay, and here let me refresh. What is the error? Okay, so if I maximize this, what we can see here? At this point, there is one error, and 0 success rate. At that time, 1 error and 0 success rate. Okay, let me max select that only. Okay, this part. It is at 1 and the success rate is at 0. At a 227 UTC, the success rate is 0. If you upload one image and one non-image, you can see somewhere the failure rate is at 50%, because out of 2 objects, 1 failed and 1 succeeded, right? This is the percentage. Okay, this is how you can observe how your Lambda function is run. Okay, so Lambda function is 99% used by the developers, and they will create the Lambda function here and they can call that in their applications. Sometimes the DevOps team will also use that, most of the time, to fetch the data from the DynamoDB table or to trigger something else. For all the things, sometimes the DevOps team also use the Lambda function. The Lambda function is allow you to run the code without worrying about the infrastructure, especially the functions. You cannot write in your own language. Only few things are supported, like .NET. I think C also supported, Java, Go language, Node.js. Node.js also, I think earlier they used to support 8 version also. I think, but now I think you have to use a Node.js 11 or 12 minimum. Okay, let me show you. Node.js 18.x, but if you have a 12.x something, that also you can use. .NET, Go language, Java, Node.js, Python, Ruby. And then these are the older versions. Still you can use that. Node.js 12.x, 14.x. That's why I said minimum Node.js version to be 12.x. If you have some code which is written in Node.js 10, that will not work. Earlier it used to work, but recently they said that minimum supported type is Node.js 12.x. You can write here, and then you can write all the things. Just you can create the function, or you can use a blueprint, some sample things, hello world function, or like get S3 object. What that function will do is, whenever there is an image uploaded or any object uploaded to the S3 bucket, it will retrieve the metadata of the object, like what is the name of the object, what is the type of the object, what is the size of the object. That information will be delivered to you as an email. For anything, you can use the Lambda, but you have to write the code as per your requirement. Okay, right. So this is about the Lambda. Just you have to know it is a function as a service. Apart from that, no need to know about Lambda unless you are going to work as a developer. So how to delete it? Can I delete the function like this? Can I delete like this? So I deleted the function, right? So automatically the application will be deleted. Still, The application is available. What if I upload some object into your source bucket? Your application is there, but we deleted the function, right? Now what will happen? The images will be compressed or not? No, because there is no function to compress the image. Okay, right. So any questions on the Lambda and how to delete this Lambda application, sample application? Select, then do you think we can delete like this? Because that is not a part of your function, right? That is an application, right? And the application was automatically created. We haven't created, right? So how an application will be automatically created? Using CloudFormation. Amazon will deploy a template. Based on that, your sample application is running on CloudFormation as a stack. So this has to be deleted from the CloudFormation. Let us say you are running an application on your EC2 instance, right? Then how you will delete that? Go to EC2 and then you will terminate the EC2 instance. But our sample application is running on CloudFormation as a stack because that was automatically created in the backend. So go to CloudFormation, select that stack, delete. So your application will be deleted. So what about the input bucket? Input bucket is a part of application, right? Source bucket is a part of application. So do you think that the source application will be deleted automatically? Yes or no? Okay. What is the minimum thing? Generally, the CloudFormation stack will delete all the resources, right? But what is the challenge to delete a S3 bucket? Bucket must be empty. Do we have a bucket empty? The stack deletion will get failed. Because it is unable to delete the S3 bucket. Even you can see that. Let me click on that just to know what is the reason. Events. Delete failed. The reason you can see here. Wait, what happened? The bucket you try to delete is not empty. So now how to delete? You have to make the bucket empty and you can delete the stack, or again you can try to delete. Based on the previous error, it is asking you to ignore that part. If I select this, it will keep the bucket as it is and it will delete all other resources. So your input bucket will exist as it is. You have to delete that input bucket manually. Delete completed, and you can see the input bucket as it is. This is your input bucket. Okay, right. This is how you can clean up. See the template, the one which I uploaded after deleting the function is not replicated to this particular bucket. Okay, so yeah, any questions on the Lambda? Okay, so we completed all the topics. I think last session we covered the storage gateway, right? Okay, so we are done with all the topics which are not related to the solutions architect also. Mostly the next part is going to be like how a infrastructure to be created in the real-time environment. So tomorrow I can share one document. Today itself I will share a document, PDF document, the steps, what we are going to deploy. The goal is to deploy one application that is going to be a WordPress application. Instead of that, you can take any application, that doesn't matter. Because we don't install softwares or we don't deal with application coding or anything. You can take some ABC application. So what tools required? That has to be set up, right? And that will be taken care by some application team or services team. But the infrastructure we have to create. According to the requirement, we need to create the infrastructure. Like whatever the application we are going to deploy, that has to be highly available, highly scalable, highly secured, and also it must be multi-tier setup. So how the infrastructure to be created, that we can discuss in the tomorrow session. So you can give it a try on Sunday. So from Monday onwards, I can show how to create and all the things. It will take maximum 2 to 3 days of time to create all the things and to deploy the application. But instead of WordPress, you can take any application. But to run a WordPress application, it requires a MySQL database and Apache kind of a thing. If you're taking the example of Java application, then it requires a Tomcat application, and in the backend database, that's application requirement. If you are using something like .NET application, then you have to install a web server of IIS and Microsoft SQL Server database. Those components will be different, but the infrastructure to be the same, right? So on what basis we have to decide how many subnets and what type of subnets, NAT gateway, VPN, all these things we will decide, and then we can create it. And we never choose the size of the instances. That should be as per the application. Even the database also we don't choose it, because if I select MySQL and if application requires Oracle, then the application will not work. So the application team will give you the minimum requirements, like what version, even the database version also, there must be some minimum version exist. If the minimum version is like 5.7, and if you are installing 4.7, it will not work. So everything will be provided to you by the application team. But here we are going to use a default application. So whatever the default requirements are published by the WordPress, that we will take it as a requirement. Based on that, we will identify what is a single tier, multi-tier, and how the infrastructure to be created, CIDR ranges, everything we will note down, and then we can start creation. Okay, right. So any questions? Okay, so if you guys are clear, let us stop the session here, and tomorrow we can continue. And if you have any questions, you can wait and you can ask me the questions. If you are clear, you guys can leave. We can continue tomorrow. Okay, right. Thank you, everyone. We'll continue tomorrow.
वो 3 नंबरों के केक की सीढ़ी बनाकर मुझ तक पहुंचे। उससे पहले उसकी सीढ़ी के हर कंधे को काटकर फेंक दूंगा मैं। सुनो, मुन्ना और उसके खतरनाक पुलिस साथियों को आज रात को पुलिस की वर्दी में जेल से बाहर निकालो और उनको समझा दो। तुम्हारी जमानत हो चुकी है। हम लोग तुम्हें रिहा करने हैं।
Yes. Lakshmi Narasimhan, you can unmute and you can ask the question. Okay, if you have any questions, you can use the chat box or you can raise your hand so that just you can, I will allow you to unmute and you can unmute, you can ask the questions directly. Or as usual, you can use the chat box also. It depends on your convenience.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Lakshmi sir. Sir, so question is, I think you told that mostly by end of next week we might complete the entire session, right? Mostly by end of next week we will complete this course, right?
Yes, or 2 3 days extra because one day we will discuss about some questions, like questions in the sense like not one day, sample questions like what kind of questions you will get in the certification exam.
Yes.
So we will spend one day on that, like because certification exam you get scenario based questions.
Okay.
Understand the question, how to get the exact requirement. That part will take one day. So
Yes.
one day we will go through some DevOps overview,
Okay,
and
sir.
one day just I can show you like the certification exam procedure, like how to register and all. Most probably Monday to Wednesday, Thursday we will complete the project. Friday we will go with some overview of the DevOps tools, and I can give Saturday free time. Like Saturday, Sunday, you guys can do a practice. So Monday we will have some questions. If you have any on the project deployment, like on 6th, then 7th and any maximum by 8th we can complete, like 7th or 8th.
Okay, sir. Yeah, I wanted to request you on going through some of the questions only, sir, so that we can get some better idea.
Yeah,
And yeah, basically how to prepare also, right? If
that's
there
the
is
reason we are going to take some sample questions.
okay,
So, so that you will get some idea about like what kind of questions you will get in a certification exam. I will share some practice questions, PDF documents also. Go through that. Most of the questions will be scenario-based questions, which will helpful for you for certification and as well as interview purpose also.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody else? Yes, Dheeraj, you can unmute.
Hello, sir. My
Yeah.
question is related to S3 bucket, sir.
S3, okay. What's your question?
When I create the S3 storage using CMD, then I am not able to create the bucket.
Okay. What is the error you are getting?
Sir, can I share my screen?
1 second. Yes, you can share now.
Sir, is visible?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, yes. But you haven't provided the region name, right?
Uh,
You have to
yes,
provide
sir.
some default region name.
Okay. Then what is command, sir, use?
Just same command, AWS configure.
Oh, no. Here, sir, for creation bucket.
Okay, bucket creation. The bucket creation that should be like AWS space S3. Forget about creation. Let's try to view the list of buckets available in your account. AWS space S3 space MS. S3
S3.
space LS. Invalid endpoint. Okay, first configure the region. We haven't configured it. The same command AWS space configure.
same enter. You can type enter.
Yes.
No modification, right? Enter. So it will take the
Direct.
same. Enter. Yes. Again. Now type the region name. US dash east dash one. Any region name you can US. Any valid region you can provide. Dash east dash one. EAST again you have EAST.
Okay, sir.
Warriors won by collective. And confliction has been massive back decades. But the opponent did protection. Cut and Roger, compliments. It was the number one सबसे बड़ा समाज financial services brand. Bozok Finance Corridor.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
बचेगा नहीं बचेगा बचेगा नहीं बचेगा Follow written
Yes, now it is working, right? Now you can
Yes,
create. Now you can create. You have the command to create the bucket. You can create.
Sir, what is the command?
The command is like AWS space S3. Then it's like MB
Space?
space MB. Yeah. You can use a help so that you can give it MB space bucket.
Okay. That's it, sir.
Yeah, bucket name.
Yes, sir.
You cannot
DM.
create the two letters, right? The minimum number of characters is 3 and the bucket name must be unique. You can enter.
No, sir.
Invalid argument back. Okay, MB space. I think you missed something. You can do one thing. AWS space S3 space MB space. You can type help. It will give you the example of commands here. Just enter and you can check what command will be suitable for your requirement.
Okay. But in document, sir, the command is different. Like,
What was the different I mentioned? Because there are two different things. One is this, and the second one is like S3 URI or something is also there. You can use any command. What was the
Sir,
command
this-
available in the document?
sir, this is your visible. Screen is visible, sir.
Yes. I think you missed bucket name dash bucket name option. I think
So API, sir, AWS S3 API.
S3 API command. Okay, that is also you can use. So can you open the document?
Yes.
We cannot see the document. Directly you can use the same command. It will work.
It is visible. Screen is visible.
No. Even you can use whatever the thing we have created, the command same thing you can use. But the thing is we have to provide the proper format. Just you can cancel it. The same command will work. You missed that S3 colon slash slash. Control C. Control C you can. Yeah. The same command. You can use up arrow. Yeah, S3 space MB space. Now the before bucket name we have to give the URL. S3 colon slash slash not that one colon. Yeah. Now bucket name. This is the URI of the bucket name. URI bucket path.
Okay. Yes, sir. It's done.
But whatever the other thing you mentioned, S3 API, that also you can use. That's a different method, different commands.
But I tried, sir, but it's not able to create.
The reason is there was no region configured, right? How it knows that in which region the bucket to be created?
Yes, yes, yes.
That's the error.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Anybody else having any questions? Okay, then thank you everyone. We'll continue tomorrow.